Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Monday, November 17th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, here in the WellPoint Studios in downtown Lowell, kicking off another week of the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around it. And in case you didn't catch that quick little glimpse off the top there, my special guest host to help do that with me today, none other than Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun.
Good morning.
Good morning, Melanie. Good to have you here.
Always good to be here.
And the timing, I'd like to say I did this on purpose. I got you in right before your voice was silenced temporarily.
Seriously?
But I had no idea.
I told Danielle, I had to get in and get it all off my chest because I get my tonsils out tomorrow. And he said I probably won't be able to talk for a couple days, which will just be death by 1,000 cuts.
So it was funny. So when Jerry Nutter mentioned that in his Sunday notes, I thought, oh, did she do it already? And none of us knew? Is that why she hasn't been on here for so long? But you actually have it upcoming. So
well, they had originally scheduled it for December 9th or something. And I said, seriously.
Oh, too close to the holidays,
well,
right?
Yeah. And plus, really, I got to wait another month. And I said, not that people cancel on surgeries. It's not like a barber or a hairstylist. And they did. They had a cancellation and like a week ago. So I booked it. And so it's going to happen.
How long is the recovery? How long are you not going to have a voice, or they're going to discourage you from using it too much?
Well, if my editors at the Lowell Sun are watching, the recovery is a month.
Okay. That's how much time you've accumulated.
Recovery still to 2026.
So wait a minute. You're going to be out of commission for like a month?
2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks.
2 weeks. But I'll be floating in and out, but I won't be attending stuff or, I'll still be watching the movie.
Who's going to do the Sunday column?
Well,
we have Peter and Prue doing their
Peter and Prue and Alana.
You're most of it. You're the Lowell person.
My hands still work.
Okay, so you'll be able to.
I'll be able to contribute, but I won't really be able to talk. He said I should dial it back for a whole week because I'm older.
Luckily for you, you only do podcasting. I'm not commenting. I'm the old person here. I was lucky enough to do it. I was either 4 or 5.
I know. Everybody's like, why didn't you get these taken out a long time ago? But I only got my wisdom teeth taken out probably a year ago. I carried those all my life, too. Yeah. And finally,
I thought I did it as an adult. I think mine came out at like 34 or something.
I got you beat on that.
You got me beat on that.
And it was fine, but it was sort of, it is disruptive. And they make you take x-rays and everything to make sure, because, they're more rooted in there, I guess. I don't know.
It
wasn't pain. They were huge. I mean, they were as big as my thumb.
They were fully grown.
Yeah, and you're awake for that, right? I was awake. I was just anesthetized. So I could hear them, and the pressure and everything.
Oh, good. I went out for when mine came out.
Oh, they put you under?
They did another one a couple of years back that I was awake for, and it's like the person's basically jumping on top of you trying to get leverage.
You can really feel the pressure, and then you feel I could feel the sucking noise or it was like, okay, next time I'm wearing earplugs. Because I did them in 2 batches. I did the top first, and then I did the bottom later. I broke it up because I thought, they get you so freaked out that you're not a teenager. So now the tonsils, and I said to Jerry, I feel like a teenager. I'm getting all this stuff done.
You are.
So after I visit with you, I'm going to go to Market Basket, and I'm buying tapioca and potatoes and ice cream.
Stuff.
Yep.
So soup broths. And
I'm going there.
Stuff.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, I wish you a speedy recovery. I'm glad we got your full medical update. Anything else you want to share? You want to sign a consent form?
Maybe I'll start a GoFundMe and everybody contribute ice cream to me.
I like that. Yeah. We'll get you some Shaw Farm ice cream delivered.
I saw that up there in your ad on the, But they have good eggnog, and I've had their pumpkin. I don't know if they have that yet, but I've had both of those before.
The eggnog is available again.
Is it? I might have to drive out there. And they do a really good job. I'm going to give a plug to Warren. A really good job on the Rocky Road, but I won't be able to eat that. He said no nuts.
Oh, yeah. You're just plain ice cream for you for a while,
right? Yeah, plain Jane stuff. But the eggnog and the pumpkin will work.
All right. Well, we're gonna send you off into your medical procedure with lots of good political talk, lots happening since our last visit here. And we're going to get to all of it with our guest, Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun. But first, let's thank our Daily Pulse sponsors. You know about Ray Booten, right? Licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, you can find Ray online at realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. And by the way, Ray's going to be our guest host on Thursday. We'll talk about some housing issues. Everybody's got housing on the mind, right?
Talk to him about the Olympia restaurant.
Oh, the Olympia restaurant.
It's on the council agenda for Tuesday, tomorrow, to turn into a historical landmark.
Yes.
So it's interesting reading. I think we're probably going to do a story on it because it's a quirky little item. And I asked Vladimir
Saldana.
Yes, he's the agent. I emailed him and I said, I'd love to get a tour of this place. And he hasn't responded yet because it's part of an estate. Well, he did. He said it's part of an estate.
Yeah.
And so it's more complicated. It has to go through the court or something like that.
A whole bunch of issues.
Yeah, but now that they want to turn it into a historical, I'm just trying to figure out what that's going to look like. I'd love to get a tour.
Who they are is...
The drop ceiling. I like that. Is that historical? I'm not really sure.
Off air,
We'll
have a
Ray should have a lot to say about that. Maybe.
You know, if you notice, none of the family members / owners of it are part of this effort. So we'll have some fun with that.
So anyway, Ray has probably has a good beat on what's going on.
All right. So we will talk to Ray Booten on Thursday as well. You can talk to him anytime you want. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint for hosting us here in the WellPoint studios. It's the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Thank you, WellPoint. Thank you, Ray.
I have to ask you, WellPoint, like with my insurance, I didn't have to get a referral because I had a sore throat, did COVID testing, always negative. Oh, it's a virus. I'm like, yeah, this is not a virus. And I just self-referred to an ENT who said, oh, no, that's tonsils. So, I know some health plans, and I don't know about WellPoint, but they make you get a referral, which might be like pulling teeth with your primary care because they're loath to refer you out.
Good pun.
What's that?
It might be like pulling teeth.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I know. If I'm not mistaken, they don't do referrals, but David Morales, if I misspoke, please forgive me.
That's worth getting WellPoint then.
But Jerry Nutter loves them.
Good.
He said they were phenomenal for him for some issues that he had as well. Since you mentioned healthcare and referrals and whatnot, let me, before we move to the local stuff, let's keep our finger on the pulse of the world around us. The shutdown is over.
Yes.
Did you attend the press conference that was held after the shutdown?
Which
last
one?
Week. Exactly. They had about 27 of them.
Yeah.
But I laughed because they had one scheduled for last Monday, and when I was
CTI?
At CTI,
right?
Yeah.
No, they still played the violin strings.
They played the sad song.
It had not been voted on yet, but it was that
Sunday
afternoon.
night. It was they took the vote. The Democratic senators finally, enough of them, went along to reopen the government. They held the press conference. Did everybody thank the 52 Republicans and the 8 Democrats who voted to reopen the government and make sure that SNAP funding and housing funding and all that was able to be released again?
There's still restrictions. That hasn't changed. That, the SNAP has been cut, but it's still funded with those cuts. But I agree with you. I think strategically, tactically, whatever. I read some articles that say the Democrats lost the tactical game but won the strategic. Who cares? I don't get into all that. I think you got smoked. I think you should have kept if you really wanted to make a point, you should have kept your powder dry. They couldn't do that. And so everything's a 4-alarm fire lately. And you can't manage policy with that. So, because then it encourages more of that.
Well, my whole thing with that is why, and by the way, let's call on, people to, let's get these SNAP benefits out, but why did nobody refuse to call out the 40 some odd Democrats? I think there was 45 for most of it for voting no every step of the way.
Yeah.
And they did so, and now they're admitting it. They did so because of the healthcare subsidies, which are now the next
they didn't get anyway.
Which they didn't get anyway.
Right. That's why I mean the smoke comment.
But by the way, which don't expire till the end of the year, right?
Right. But like WellPoint, you have to make your choice. Like we just had it at Lowell Sun. We had to make our healthcare choice by the end of October.
Okay.
So it's hard to do that if everything I mean, if you're looking for value and you don't know where the value is going to be, well, there's no value in that no matter what. But not WellPoint with the ACA. And, you know, it's going to be tricky. So there were some hard deadlines. I think the government one goes to the end of November. They can make their choices.
Yes.
So there was pressure on the Republicans to either fish or cut bait, and they've kept fishing.
Right.
I mean, I mean, it really is interesting. I think it wasn't a well rolled out initiative. I think if you're going to get your people, let me put it this way: instead of having all the minor players, major in this market, but minor, CTI is one of I don't know how many community care organizations. Instead of having them run these little ad hoc press conferences, which serves their local needs, I'm not ranking on them. You should preempt that by saying it up front. And they didn't lay out the harm that was going to happen. They sort of did generally. Oh, people are going to be hurting. But some of this makes me worry that the Democrats didn't understand what was really at stake in a way that the providers did, like Open Pantry. Open Pantry
they
was
understood.
well aware.
They were willing to let people that they're ostensibly lecturing us about how they care to protect and some of us don't, they were willing to let them suffer for a couple of weeks.
Well, you got to mobilize those people.
Until they got their way on the healthcare subsidies. And I'm just curious why they were never called out. I joked with one of the organizers of the event who let me know. I'm like, I don't think they really want me there, because I would ask that question. Like, why don't you just simply vote yes? You know, why are we having a press conference in Lowell instead of talking to the 2 U.S. senators in Massachusetts who continued to vote no and did,
and we're not at
even after, and didn't say to them, why don't you want to give the food? Let's get food to hungry people.
Yeah.
Let's get heating and home assistance to people who need it, and then we can fight about the Obamacare subsidies afterwards. But it seems like they were a political pawn in the game, and nobody seemed to be asking that. And
well, if what you're saying there were no winners, I totally agree with you. There were no winners, and there were only losers. And
in the population, only
right,
losers.
That's what I'm saying. The people who were most impacted lost bigly, but the other people. Thank you.
I see what you did there. Very good.
But I just, you know, when you're talking about social activism movements, the harm was assumed. You know, like civil rights, you're going to get your face kicked in. Well, I mean, the freedom rides were counseled on that. Don't strike back. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get whatever. And even in the women's movement, the right to choose, or reproductive rights, it was understood, you know, that there's going to be some harm here. And I don't think that harm was communicated except as a penalty. Does that make sense? They're going to hurt you.
Well, it was the push to cut Trump's shutdown, Schumer's shutdown. You know, the talking points were back and forth. But why did my whole upset was, why did nobody want to admit the truth? It was Schumer or whoever was holding him hostage by threatening to primary him. Why wouldn't we just say they're the ones that did it? And the answer is simple. When the government was voted on to be reopened finally, who was upset about it reopening? There's your answer for who wanted the shutdown and who caused it. And we know who did it.
Well, I don't think
but nobody wants to say it.
I think there is a time, this is way off the local Lowell scene, but with Schumer, I think it becomes a clash of the titans. You know, it's
He's
Trump.
done. He's toast.
Yeah, Trump as the New York guy, and Schumer as the New York guy, and it becomes personal. And I think when it becomes personal, you've already lost, is my opinion. And they made it personal.
And unfortunately, it's been personal forever. Our government is broken. The days of compromise.
Not with Marjorie, what's her name? Green?
MTG. Marjorie Taylor
She's like
Greene.
looking like the bigger person. How's that possible?
The next Liz Cheney.
Yeah, I know. Next Lauren Boebert.
She'll be gone. But what I see coming is, I think the Senate filibuster rule is going to get tanked.
Oh, you think so?
I think I think before the end of this Trump presidency, you're going to see the end of the Senate filibuster. I think you'll see. It's just a matter of who pulls the trigger on it. Yeah. Because this fight is going to keep happening. You cannot get. Well,
we're already going to have it again in January.
Yes, exactly.
It's not a budget; it's a continuing resolution. So
and you can't get 60 votes in today's U.S. Senate. There are just not enough people who are willing to break rank. You know, Jeanne Shaheen, our neighbor. In New Hampshire, was one of the key players in kind of moving it along. She actually, did you see her press statement yesterday about why she did? And
I've read excerpts.
Yeah. So it was, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to get that without a 2-week, 1 month, 2 month shutdown. One of these times is going to be even further.
Right.
And I'm by the way, I'm a guy who says shut the government down so people will see how much of it you can actually survive without. But once it goes above a month, now you see the thing. But honestly, we survived 2 or 3 weeks okay. So if we shut the government down, what's 3 divided by 52? 1/14 of the federal government budget. We might be able to survive. But that other percent that's necessary, the SNAP benefits, and we can argue about how much they give and to who and whatnot, but you need them. There are people who legitimately need them. There are people who have to fly for a number of reasons. Our economy, wait till you see the economic numbers.
They're supposed
October.
to start coming out now.
They're going to be disastrous because of that, that whole thing. So,
well, it did I try to either put things in a historical context or a biblical one. And it did kind of remind me of, because I think we have to talk to people above politics, is that this is like the Solomon's baby with the 2 women who said the baby belonged to them. And one woman said, yeah, cut the baby in half. She was fine with that. And the other one said, you know what? Give the baby to this woman who is not his mother. And Solomon, the wise king, said, okay, you get the baby, lady, because you must be the mother, because you wouldn't sacrifice. You would sacrifice to keep the baby alive. And I think in that way, a better leader would have counseled the Democrats to vote yes. Don't kill the baby. And
that leader wants a fight. The leader wants to carve out babies. So that's the left, the left,
and that's a bad message.
Zoran Mondani wants a fight. They're pissed that that fight ended.
Once you've lost the argument, I feel like you should fall in line, because just being obstinate doesn't win you any. What is this proving?
They think they lost the argument because they didn't fight hard enough, and that's why they're going to fight harder next.
Well, that's debatable, right? So I, ask the people on SNAP, ask the military people, ask the people, the veterans who are losing their housing vouchers. And I mean, it has been a hot mess, and it really did fall harder on the people who need it the most. And that's the sad. Yeah, that's the sad thing. And I do think that there wasn't good messaging to prepare the population. Sure, you can do your 4-alarm fire messaging. Oh, people are going to go hungry. Oh, but be specific. And and I think there was a yeoman effort by the state government to underwrite those losses. I think Healy did what she could to staunch the bleeding with giving money to SNAP and things like that. But the reality is the federal government carries a lot of clout.
And again, we have this discussion every time people talk about why don't people vote in local elections? Because the people are smarter than we give them credit for. They know where their bread is buttered. And you may get a little
shift is coming going?
You may get a little spray of butter from the local level, but that big slab that they throw on your bread comes from the federal government, and it gets funneled through the state. So the state is probably even more important than your local government nowadays.
Well, even Lisa Golden, who's the director of Health and Human Services and sits on the board of directors, or board of health, does not have a vote. But she mentioned in your podcast, last week, that their community development block grants and their, I can't remember their other one, I think it was harm reduction. I'm spitballing here, but they've been cut and they might be eliminated.
She's worried about them in the next iteration.
Right. So those are, community. They were last substantially cut or substantively cut under the Nixon administration. And so that would be what do they call a paradigm shift? Because a lot of people depend on that money, including the local government, including Lowell, who uses that to underwrite Elliott Church's programs. I think the LTLC has gotten some of that funding, all those neighborhood groups.
They're going to have to just change their wording around a little bit on some things. Did you see that motion response in the next council agenda?
Which one?
Where you kind of asked about federal funding and where we stand. And the response was, you have to eliminate XYZ out of your grant proposals.
Right. Well, that might be true, but it's also true the money's not there or it's being withheld. Like Merrimack Valley or Merrimack Repertory Theater did not get their $20,000 reinstated, whereas the Lowell Folk Festival did. So it's a crapshoot in some ways. You may or may not get it back, no matter how you word it.
Well, that's why I'd love to see what was the difference between the Folk Festival, which did get their money back, and the MRT, which didn't. What did they?
I don't know, because they both had Asian.
What was the reason?
They both had Well, I don't know. I don't know that we got that letter.
I think you need to look in the mission statement.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be willing to
You
bet.
think that's what it was?
I would, again, it's all in the wording, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you look at the city of Lowell, I remember when this first came up in February, January, whenever it was coming up, and we kind of talked about it. And you notice the city's, DEI director still working for the city.
Right.
No longer titled the city's DEI director.
Right.
It's a fancy new title for, Annabelle Dominguez.
I think it's Hugs and Kisses director.
Right. And for all we know, behind the scenes, she may be doing the exact same things. But on that job description and publicly, it's different. Which is, by the way, some idiot podcaster suggested that. Like, just shut up. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And don't say a word about it.
Well, it's going to be hard for the federal government to drill down that low.
Correct.
But yes, I think if you apply for money, you elevate your profile.
Yeah.
That's where the challenge comes in.
And if you're pounding your chest about virtue signaling while you're applying for that money,
well, I don't know that equity and inclusion is virtual signaling, but I understand your.
No. What I'm saying is if you're publicly saying what you're doing instead of
to thumb your nose at them.
Just doing it.
Yeah.
Say, okay, we've changed the title. Here's what we're doing. It's now a human resource job or a community outreach job as opposed to a DEI job. You can still do the same work, right? As long as you don't call attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are deficits in recognition. And this is a conversation I had with Dick Howe. I asked him, because he's like the expert on everything, historical stuff about Lowell. And I said, and he had the monument list. And, I think like 98% of them are named for men. So what's up with that? Is that just because there were 98% men living in Lowell or running Lowell?
But in the 1840s and 1860s when Lowell became
but how do
Lowell.
we address that? We're still naming things. We have the Anne Marie and Bob Page, so it's slowly changing.
Right. We have the Maloney Hall over at UMass Lowell.
Right.
My hunch is Julie Chen is going to get a building named after her at some point. So some of this new stuff is going to
it takes a long time.
Right.
And so
how long did it take to steer the Titanic, right?
Right. Well, and if you're equating equity inclusion with the Titanic, you're absolutely right. It takes a long time. And why does it take so much time? Why can't we just kickstart it and just say, this person deserves this recognition and they happen to be a woman. I don't have a problem if you say we're going to focus on Latinos and Asians and women in naming things in the city for the next year. Go for it.
And the city's done a pretty good job of that. If you look at most of the things that have been named recently, the
Riddick Gym is still the Riddick Gym.
But it was.
I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the auditorium.
The Rourke Bridge is going to stay the Rourke Bridge. There was a golden opportunity to.
Yeah, the Cyrus. That's state level, so I don't think we really have a dog in that fight, right? But like the Cyrus Irish, that'll probably stay the same. So some of this stuff is
what is will stay it is, but hopefully we'll be getting lots of new buildings.
So DEI, maybe that's become a divisive sort of language, but I think the idea is appropriate. Is let's look at things differently. And let's start recognizing people who deserve more recognition than the way we played it for a long time.
We will not differ.
I can see a Teddy Panos, boulevard or something.
Yeah, you'll probably see a garbage pail or something. We're chatting with Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun. We're going to turn our attention. We're going to focus on Lowell. She's she headlines the famous Sunday column in the Sun, which either drives us nuts or gets us all fired up for good reasons. We got lots to talk about with Melanie. Let me first thank all of our podcast sponsors here. Of course, the Daily Pulse sponsor, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Massey and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com, and watch for him on the Daily Pulse this coming Thursday. Thank you as well to WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, TMI Cares, developing and managing their own properties for over 30 years. Experience the quality, the care, and the value of making TMI the choice for your home. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to generations of families since 1925. We need some warmth. Winter's coming, folks. Cold out there this morning. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. And last but certainly not least, Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to protect its most valuable assets since 1982. Thank you to all of our Inside Lowell sponsor families. Thank you to Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun for joining us as well. All right.
So here's a segue for you.
What do you got? Let's go.
So,
you're getting good, which you're getting good at.
Thank you. Well, Rita Mercier, the senior center, when she steps down from the council, will be named for her. So that's like a nice little carrot.
Yep.
But I don't think she has any intention of stepping down.
Everyone kind of assuming this was her last term, the one that she won the election on. There was some talk that she wasn't going to run for re-election just to get her name on the building. I'm not so sure Rita's going anywhere.
The girl, and I say that
you've spoken to her recently, yeah?
Well, I've been texting her, but
does she sound like somebody who's saying, "Yeah, I'm about to enter my final council term"?
No, she's radio silent, which tells me way more. She's not going to comment
sometimes the things politicians don't say.
Yeah, and that woman has a lot to say. So if she's not talking, then she's steering clear of the controversy because she's not going to tip her hand. Mm-hmm. So she has. So she's going to be a woman on a building, which is very nice, yes. And a very prominent one. She's played a large role in the city. Love her or hate her.
The great irony, though, Melanie, the DEI crowd is probably not happy that she's one of the women who's getting her name on the building.
Yeah, that stuff.
They're not going to be very happy.
I have to give a shout out to Rita. I didn't know any of her history or any of them when I came into this beat, June 2022. And the first city council meeting I attended was the racism as a public health issue. And I sat up in the balcony because, I was new and whatever. I didn't know what really was going on. Racism, a public health issue. Okay, talk to me. And everybody came out.
Now, that was like 3 years after it was the real big.
Right. And I backed into all that conversation after I started researching the story based on what went on that floor. I mean, it was bedlam. They didn't get anything else done.
Sure
Good
was.
bedlam. And Rita and Corey were, I believe, the co-sponsors. Corey Robinson were the co-sponsors on that. And midway, Rita threw him under the bus. And I'm up in the balcony thinking, what just happened here? I don't understand this at all. And I caught up with Corey after the vote in the hallway, and I said, wow, that was electrifying. I introduced myself, and I said, this is kind of like Saul on the way to Damascus, where he is struck down by a great light and becomes Paul, the apostle kind of thing. And he was not amused because... And
the relationship between you and Corey Robinson has gone down
north ever since then. And I wasn't needling him. I didn't know what had happened. But what I witnessed with Rita was kind of profound. I mean, I got goosebumps where this woman was adamant against that. And then she did like a mea culpa and said, hey, you know what? I can't ignore what I've just heard here. And I'm going to vote that it is a public health issue. And then Eric Gitcher, they made a new motion, and she supported it, and that's what passed.
Yeah, I think Gitcher started the turnover,
maybe,
and then they all kind of fell in place. I think Rita was able to do the math and realize
and that's
she was going to be on the wrong end of that vote.
And that's what I said in the column. She's a smooth operator. She's nobody's fool. Nope. And if you play Rita for a fool, she will cut the rug out from under you. And I mean that as a compliment. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see that as opportunistic at the time because there was electricity in that room. And so she read the room. That's what good politicians do. Mm-hmm. And, that thing passed and nothing has really happened with it. I mean, it's not really, it's sort of a formality in many respects. You can point to it. Yeah. But she played her cards very smartly.
She
and that's why I don't count her out. This whole talk, I don't speculate, with the whole mayor stuff.
That's half the fun. That's what we do on podcasts.
I know, but I can't bring myself to do because I really don't have an inside track, Teddy. I'm not plugged in. So let's just say what it is. I can take the high road because I don't have a low road. I don't have any access to the low road, although I would love to. But I don't think you can. I don't think it's probably not politically correct to say, but you can't It's not over until the fat lady sings.
Yeah, there is a scenario of a quote unquote deadlocked council,
and he's going to pull a racism is a public health issue move.
Well, you have to. It's not new, by the way, and Dick Howe will probably tell you himself. His father was on the sides of those votes in the past, where you go down to election day, you can't, or maybe inauguration day, and then they vote to elect the mayor formally, and they can't get the back then.
Oh, at the LMA or whatever.
No, wherever
don't they vote there?
I think that's where they did it last time. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's where they do it. But you've had scenarios where the votes aren't there, and then they start switching on the second, third, fourth ballot, and you once it becomes clear who that somebody can't get the sixth vote. Does somebody flip over to the other main competitor, or do they look for a compromise candidate? That may happen in this one. I say may. It all depends on.
Well, we still don't have the recount is meeting tonight at 5:30. Peter's going to be covering that. Well, not the recount, the meeting.
The election commission meeting
to determine
will
the recount.
Formally tell us the date and whatnot.
It's
it's Friday, right? Is what you picked up.
He didn't
likely Friday.
Likely.
It has to be
likely either Friday or Saturday.
They don't like telling us when it's going to be. But
well, if it's going to be Friday, it's going to be Friday morning because they close at noon.
It's a work day, right? So, or maybe
they're not going to do it Saturday.
Maybe they decide to keep them overtime, and once City Hall closes at 12, they do that. Right. Which, by the way, Will, if you're watching, that's my preference, so I can get the Daily Pulse
there you go.
Way, and then come over for the
We're not trying to put our hand on the scale here, but Friday would be nice.
I really am. Will, I'm begging you, do it. Not till noon, okay?
But, it is interesting to note that Belinda's vote count increased by 6 after the provisional. They've already counted the provisional ballots. They're just going to announce them. But attached to their meeting was a link to a document that shows you what they're going to be voting on.
Correct.
So,
they found there were 7 extra votes that got added to the tallies. I'm sorry, 8 extra votes. 7 went to Belinda, so she went to 1,000 from 1,143 to 1,150. Dan Finn went from 1,139 to 1,140.
So odds are there's not much more to count.
That's a larger thing. I'm curious to see it for.
But he's asked for a hand count, so that's
he's asked for a hand count. I'm curious to see it. It will also give us a sense of just how accurate are voting machines and tabulators. Are they prone to any mistakes? Some people say they are. How do they count, in ballots nowadays? I'm sure they test run them.
That's a really good, that's something they should do anyway without a recount. Just do a hand count.
I believe
just to test the system.
Well, didn't Lowell get, if I remember, after the 2023 election, Lowell was one of a handful of districts that the Secretary of State randomly selects to actually do that, to see. Yeah, and I believe in 2023 they did. Lowell was one of the communities that was audited, and I think they passed. And then in 2024 we had
the 700 missing ballots. So go figure. I don't.
Generally, recounts aren't. They don't flip it. I looked at it, and admittedly, the data that you're able to find doesn't talk about city council or select board or school committee races. It talks about statewide races, and out of 160 some odd across the country, only 2 of them ended up seeing a different result. And when they did, the vote margin was within a certain percentage, which the Finn-Joran one was just outside with the 4 votes. I haven't done the math to see how the 10 votes affects it, but
that's what I was thinking too. But we're already in motion. It's a good exercise. Just do it.
And if I was Dan Finn, I would have done it too. Only just for the peace of mind component when there were 4 votes. Yeah, why the hell not?
I don't think it has that. This is me speculating. But based on his quote that he gave me, he gave it to you too. It's the same thing. But he gave it to me after the 10.
Knowing it was 10, yes.
Yeah. So and I texted him back.
He knew it was 10 well before.
Yeah, and I said, hey, do you still want to stand by this, even though it's 10? And he said yes. But
I think the extra votes coming in made him say, well, how do extra votes come in?
Because they're provisional.
How does this really work? And what other types of situations like that?
Well, we're all going to find out.
Been out there.
Right. Right.
Yes,
and
we are.
provisionals, people who show up the day of and they're not on the voter list. And so they fill out an emergency ballot, for lack of a better word, which is called provisional. And that gets counted after. It's like put in after. So I think with what I got from Dan's quote is that he said, in talking with my family and supporters and my campaign manager, which is his
Nora, his 11-year-old. Yep.
who wants to disappoint their daughter? So you're not moving that. And in that moment, I thought this recount is going forward because I had heard scuttlebutt that, maybe he'll drop out now that her vote lead has grown. And I thought it's not about the vote lead. It's not about any of that. It's about showing his daughter that he's in it to win it, even if he loses.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful motivator. I can get around that.
And also
for $30,000 or whatever it takes for the city to be.
Hopefully.
Whatever it costs,
Hopefully not that much.
No, I think he was spitballing. I'm not quoting Will. He said maybe $5,000 to $10,000.
Now, you mentioned both have an attorney. To at least to me, Belinda Duran has not mentioned that.
No,
she
and
issued
that
a
was
Facebook statement.
Yeah.
I would imagine she would get an attorney. It's smart. Dan confirmed his attorney is
Right.
Dennis, if I get the right name, Williams, who was Lori Trahan's attorney during the
reported that,
2018
right.
congressional recount. There are people who've told me Dan Coe screwed up because whoever his attorney and people were that were handling it, representing him, didn't properly staff, especially in Drake. And they told me there were places he could have challenged and maybe.
Drake, it would be a viable turf.
But on that one, you went from 50. Trahan's lead was 54, I believe, on election night, and it ended up after the recount 130 something, or it was 100 something anyway. So generally, that's how recounts do go. They actually extend the lead.
Right.
For the person.
Well, it's going to be a good education for all of us, right? I think it's a good civics lesson, and that when I talked to Jim Pope, who's the election commissioner, the night of Tuesday night after all the ballots had come in, I said, "Are there any provisional ballots?" Or I asked Will, "Are there any provisional ballots for Belvedere?" And he said, "Not as yet." But that's just in this moment in time.
Correct. So, there's some overseas component.
Right. There's also, and we're going to find out what all that as yet is on tomorrow night. Or tonight,
Monday night.
And then I said to Jim, well, if there is a recount, because this is a very small margin, 4 votes, what are the odds, just speaking as someone who's been around for a long time? And he said the machine counts are extremely accurate.
They seem
so now we'll find out. I mean, I think what you find in our discourse now is that we've made a lot of assumptions about what we think works or what doesn't work. And a lot of these are being challenged. And I don't have a problem with that. I think now we're gonna challenge that assumption. Are the machines really accurate? I'm not throwing shade at Jim. I trust what he thinks they're accurate. Okay, they're accurate. But when you get a recount and then you get a hand recount, you get a chance to question the assumptions. And I think that's healthy for democracy.
And I think it'll be important to see, like, how, do they shift the margin in any way? I also think if you're Dan Finn, everyone points to Dan Finn, but also if you're Belinda Duran, you look at those vote totals. At some point, you're going to go grab the voter list.
Yeah.
And see who didn't show up.
Yeah.
Who said, I'm voting for you.
Yeah, when does that come out?
I did go out
That's
and vote
a good
for
one.
you.
Right.
The people, I think it is.
I have to ask
the
him.
Candidates kind of get that.
Yeah.
I think they're going to look at it and say, so-and-so, if you're Dan Finn, you're like, these 5 people could have cost me the election.
Well,
Belinda says, if these 5 people showed up, I wouldn't have to be going through a recount and sweating it. I could be celebrating officially now.
Right.
So that will also be fun to watch.
It goes to show every vote counts. And I think that's the sort of thing, if I were running voter registration, I'd give these sorts of examples. And Jose Cervantes said that to me election day on the preliminary. At the preliminary election in September, he said he was disappointed because he thinks based on those, he was already predicting at like 8 o'clock in the morning he was going to lose because he wasn't seeing those people come out.
That problem, right.
Yeah, he was really, it was a sad moment. I took his picture and he smiled gamely, but I think he was already thinking the die was cast because people didn't show.
Yeah, you can tell, but it does highlight where local elections, every vote counts. It's really in those. That's where you're more likely to get the 5, 10, 15 vote margin in a close race as opposed to
and look at that on a national
race.
level. That's going to happen all the way up the food chain. Those all become, it's like compounding interest. They all become compounding votes. Interestingly enough, you probably read this in the column, or I don't remember where I put it. Belinda won their home turf. They live in the same precinct, and she won by 19 points, 19 votes in his home turf, their home turf, which is telling. It's interesting. It's not. I don't know what it says. It just says she won in their home turf. You take it as you please.
It was unbelievably close. It was just I haven't seen it. I've heard lore of close. I remember the '94 Register of Deeds election.
And who was
Dick
that?
Howe ended up
that
winning.
he won?
It wasn't a big vote difference between him and Karen Theodoris second, and there was Fred Simon was in that race. There were some big names in that race, and it was razor thin. They did a recount, and I believe
who asked for the recount, though?
I believe the Karen Theodoris, who was the second place.
Who was
person.
in place before Dick? Early, right?
Early, yes.
Early, okay.
Yeah,
another garage named after a man.
A man in office.
You know, you're right. If you named a garage after a woman, I don't know, people may be like, what are you trying to say there? It's so sexist.
One of the future garages we get, we'll name after Karen 𝐶𝐸. We'll call it.
There you go.
We'll call it. I want to name the Erastus. I want to something at City Hall has to get
now.
named
See, if
for Erastus, right?
Sal Napoli had been, yes, he's indispensable. But if Sal Napoli had been smart, he would have done a naming for his garage and thrown a bone to the city, and maybe done a contest. Who knows? Or just given it to Rita and called it the Mercier Garage. I don't know.
Or maybe Sal just wanted to get the hell out of town.
I think, he.
All right, so the election's out of the way. A couple of things that you stirred the pot on over the last week.
What, Teddy?
The column Lowell runs on diesel. A clever. Thank you. A clever.
I actually went to Dunkin' Donuts. I had written a column.
Dunkin' Donuts does not run on diesel.
But their coffee could be diesel sometimes. And I went there, and on Thursday I'd already written the column, and I went there on Friday, and I didn't have a headline. My editor says, I like where you're going on this, but what's the headline? I thought, okay. Because it's
you have to write the headlines too? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's it.
And
that's what the editors are for.
I thought, I need some sugar. So I went to Dunkin' to get Munchkins, and I thought, America runs on Dunkin'. Lowell runs on diesel.
Lowell runs on diesel.
Those things, I went up there election day. I was driving because I had tons of time on my hands between the time the polls opened and the time they closed. So I just drove around the city, and it was beautiful. So I went to all my usual haunts, Rourke Bridge, the high school, and I went up to Markley. I stalked Markley, and those generators, Teddy, I probably hadn't been there maybe tops a month, and they're mammoth. And that's why I said that's what's going to hold the 6,000 gallons of diesel in each of those those huge things. And
is that where the diesel side? Isn't the diesel underground? Isn't the fuel underground?
No, I think they're held. They're held into his belly. Well, you could be right. Maybe they're in the pads underneath. I don't know. That's a really good. They're huge. I got to believe they talk about them being double walled. They did dig a big pit there. You're right. But I don't think so, because the generators on the top of the one Boston or Summer Street, one Summer Street in Boston, which is their other headquarters above Macy's, those are on the roof, and there's no digging under there.
Yeah, and they had no choice in Boston. But that's a fascinating political battle to me.
So that's where local matters. Right. So that's where local matters, and you have a direct say in how that unfolds. And that column wasn't to throw shade on the planning board. I don't think, 2015 was 10 years after Facebook came out? Facebook came out in 2008. So the learning curve was still pretty steep and when you watch that meeting, it's on the LTC archives. They're talking about cloud computing. They're using language that's not super descriptive. I don't think anybody really knew, except Jill Boyle, whose wife, he said, works as not EPA, but she's she works in diesel, particle emissions. And I don't think they knew what to ask, and so they didn't ask it. It wasn't an omission by design. It was an omission by omission. So now we're stuck with these huge 27, maybe 31.
Well, are you stuck with them, or are you blessed to have the future of the world be kind of headquartered in the city of Lowell, be it AI research and facilities through UMass Lowell and their partners that are coming in through Link and Draper, which we're seeing expanding already before they even get their Link building, or are, and the data centers that are needed to fuel them. The same debate they're having in Tewksbury about everybody wants to move to green energy, but the second you decide to cite a battery storage thing, newsflash, you can't have green renewable energy without batteries and battery storage. So I look at this debate and I do feel bad for the neighbors who are going to be directly impacted, but this is what's best overall for the city. And you can have that debate. And sometimes a particular street or particular neighborhood gets trampled in what's best overall for the city. Except in this particular case, it's the state, the country, and the world, because this same discussion is taking place in Louisville, Kentucky. It's taking place in somewhere in Wisconsin, I believe right outside Milwaukee, Wisconsin. These data centers have become a bone of contention. And in Lowell, it's about water runoff. It's about noise. With the neighbors. The real battle is the environmentalists versus, quote unquote, the future data centers, as I'm going to call it. And that's where you're seeing this battle play out. If it was a neighborhood issue, my hunch is Markley could take care of that like that, and they probably will.
But they haven't really.
Will that be enough to satisfy a majority of the councilors because of the pressure that's going to come on them from the environmental folks?
Well, there was a, what's it called? EEA, Environmental Energy Agency, and Massachusetts has, that plant is 60 megawatts, which is a lot. I can't remember. The Markley plant. And Massachusetts wants to increase that to 3,500 megawatts in the pipeline in the Commonwealth. That's 60 more plants of Markley size. So
because that's to meet the demand of what's coming.
Question, right. And I just saw
Massachusetts wants to be on the forefront of that instead of letting it go elsewhere. Right.
And so, Mark Zuckerberg, I just read this in the Wall Street Journal or someplace, the data center he wants to build, and I can't remember where, is the size of Midtown Manhattan. Is it the one in Houston, or is that Google who's building one in Houston? I think I read the same article. Right. And they did an overlay of the size of the plant on Midtown Manhattan. I mean, what that island looks like, and it's enormous. And that I'm not against that. We have to build these things. You have to build a railroad. You have to build an airport. They take up tons of land and they disrupt a ton of people. I get that. What I want the city to maybe be more proactive about is make sure that the citizens have a seat at that table and have a meaningful conversation or input.
Town meeting.
So
this is where I differ on that, and you kind of wrapped up your Lowell runs on diesel by saying that. Make sure the citizens. Problem is when you get 2 people, you get 3 opinions. You get 10 people at the table, you get 22 opinions.
But we understand it better now, and so I don't think they had any idea. Who did in 2015? You can't ask what you don't know, and they didn't know because.
But you did point out that the Markley people knew, because you
wrote
a little thing where the guy said even back then we're going to 150,000 or 200. He said up to 200,000, and they're at what 150?
68.
68, but they're going to grow.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm speculating here. I wonder if they won't expand their footprint and move into that industrial. I mean, the majority of their generators are on the north side, which there are no homes. There are homes on the periphery, but there's the Andrew Street condos on Andrew Street. I don't know what they're really called, but it's on Andrew Street, and they overlook that generator yard. But predominantly over there, it's warehouses. It would be a perfect
tall warehouses that go above an 8-story.
That's a good question. I'd have to see. Those generators are huge. I mean, you can see them from Chambers Park.
That's an industrial area. If you go
industrial,
go to like Lawrence Street. Go past, I call it Whipple Road, or where the old Whipple was. You may not remember. I think it was closed by the time you got here. But there's a little bend that takes you towards like the mills and where Caballeros is and whatnot. Oh, yeah. And if you look off to your right, you're going to see some big industrial size buildings over there as well. That neighborhood, for better or worse, has always been an industrial center. And that facility has as well. So...
Yeah, South Lowell kind of gets kicked in the teeth because they've had Ayers City. Is it Ayers City or Air City? And
you have to go to Marty Laurie for that one.
Yeah, and they have the EPA brown zone or whatever they call it. And so, it says light industrial. I'm not sure they had in mind 30-foot high I mean, it's like the size of a football field, 27 of them. So, it's pretty, when the sun hits that, you're going to be blinded. But I get it. I understand that they have to do this. And you're right. It's that whole, it's like in medicine when now you can Google stuff. In fact, I had a doctor tell me when I was going through this, stay off of Google. Because I was like, well, could it be tonsils or, tonsil? Do I need to get a tonsillectomy? I said, stay off of Google. It's a virus. Don't play Dr. Google. And I'm like, I should have asked ChatGPT. They would have told me, get yourself to an ENT right away. But it's just, there's sort of this top-down conversation. And I think people feel a little... Well, you can see it with the neighborhood. They're coming out. They're not letting it go. Is that they feel talked down to.
But isn't that what representative democracy is about?
Talking down to people?
No. That the guy you have an election. You have your voice.
Well,
your seat at the table was on November 4th, the 3 weeks leading up to it, where the mail ballots were available.
Yeah.
That's your seat at the table, and then you got to kind of get out of the way and let government either affirm your faith in them or confirm your lack of faith. But this is the part that's interesting because, you mentioned to me, you said the name Joe Boyle, his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe's the guy, listen to the experts. My hunch is he's on the listen to the neighbors side of this argument, right?
He's not on the board anymore. He was back then.
Right.
Yeah.
But what do the experts at the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection say about the noise levels at Markley, the pollution levels, the air quality levels at Markley? They check out, correct? They're within state guidelines.
Well,
Are they not?
Joe said that those guidelines are very low for generators, for emergency backup generators.
But they're the guidelines that we have.
Yeah, the guidelines which haven't been revisited since like 1978. So you're right. It might be a flawed model, but it is a model.
So you have to have your faith in the government. And it's not like, we're not talking, Massachusetts is not run by MAGA or, far right-wing fascists.
Well, then there would be no standards.
They're run by people who are generally environmentally cautious and forward-thinking, right?
Right.
The same people who now want to cut mass save and want to reduce your electricity bill. That's a discussion for another day. It's amazing how much the real world
interferes.
And pocketbook issues interfere with environmental activism when the politicians have their.
Well, there have been some bad. Markley has done some bad acts. Like they didn't have those 4 south generators on their schematics at all, and they just showed up and were running them. And the council voted for them without them being approved. So they put one water tower.
Which were the 4 over the summer?
No. When they first opened.
Oh, okay.
They had 4 generators on the south side of the plant, which are co-located to homes. Right over, homes overlook it.
That wasn't in their initial plan that was approved?
No, and I pointed that out.
Where they had the squares?
Yeah. Okay. Well, they might have the squares, but there was no, the planning board and the DPD didn't approve. That wasn't part of the original site plan. And then suddenly they're just there and you have to deal with the fallout. They had one water tower and then they built a second one. That wasn't in the plans. I mean, that's all part of the historical record, the official record. And so, they've done some sort of shenanigans that haven't endeared them to exercising goodwill. So if you have the votes, which they did under former manager Cox?
Kevin Murphy was the manager.
Kevin Murphy. I get them confused. Kevin Murphy is the LHA attorney now, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and John Cox is a private attorney.
John Cox is now a private attorney.
Private attorney, okay. So you had a friendly city manager and your vote was already pretty much... Why do you have to play those kind of games and those sort of shenanigans?
But this is the part I'm trying to... Because I got confused reading your article, and I guess unless I see the schematics and whatnot... Yeah.
I linked to them, so you can just link in the article.
Did you?
Online.
Okay, I'll have to go do that. I don't like to link to those big things on things. But so they didn't show those 4 locations, but they showed. Did they show all the others?
They show them as rectangles, but they're not in the site plan as generators. They talk about generators, but they're not marked on the site plan that was approved by the planning board.
But were they discussed? Did anybody ask during the meetings what are these 4 things?
No, and that's why I think that's why I kind of was a little snarky, is that they asked about the height of the fence and they asked about the height of the shrubs and the trees and the sidewalk and, the parking spots. They asked about the logistical and the landscaping, but not really the mechanical. And
so there were 4 squares on a thing and the planning board members never said, what are these 4? No, nobody in the planning board said, what are these 4 things?
No, not in the 2015 I watched. Okay. No, not at all. Not when it was initially approved. Now, they've been before the planning board several times. But in 2018, that's when a planning associate who's left and now works in Arlington, Virginia, Virginia, or Alexandria, Virginia, said, this was not in the original site plan review approval. So what are we going to do about it? And I just think that doesn't really help with your neighborhood relations, is my point.
They could definitely use neighborhood relations.
Yeah,
and they're trying now, and it may be too little, too late with the neighbors.
Well, it doesn't matter. They've already, this train has left the station.
Correct.
Those generators, whether you love it or hate it, those generators are built. They're going to be filled with diesel oil. They might not be filled right away, but eventually they're going to be filled.
And so you see the same out, despite all the politicking and whatnot. You see the same outcome that I see.
Yeah,
these generators were permitted. You're going to see them filled.
But what my point in that was, Markley got lucky because they were not super well educated about seeing around corners when it came to IT or, massive IA. It makes me wonder what 10 years from now they're already figuring out.
They already know.
I know.
I got news. Why do you think they're asking for another 29?
Yeah.
They know what's coming. My hunch is Markley knew in 2015 and even before then.
Well, the
hence
engineer
they got into the business model.
Yeah, the engineer says.
Correct.
This is what's going to happen. This is what we need. So
will we be better off when they eventually move to little nuclear reactors to power? Because part of what Facebook is doing and Google and their AI, their data centers is they're going to be self-sufficient in terms of.
Well, they've already bought
energy.
Amazon bought 3 Mile.
So exactly. So it's going to be nuclear power, which.
It's one can of worms after another.
I would rather have diesel than nuclear power in my neighborhood, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to be there, but it's going to be in other neighborhoods in the future. It's coming. Hell, to me, I ultimately think nuclear will be the main energy driver throughout the country and the world.
Yeah.
Because I don't see where we're heading.
Well, the energy
any other
demands.
way to meet the demand.
Yeah.
Correct.
I was on ChatGPT and I was typing yes, please, and thank you, and all that, because I'm trying to train it to be polite. And
that's not how I'm training mine. Right?
Exactly. And I read an article that said every time you type please, you use 20 gallons of water. So I stopped saying please. But it was.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like every command uses energy, which uses water, which uses electricity, which uses all this. So I tried to keep my commands.
So that one word uses 20 gallons of water?
Well, if you use it, I'm overly polite. So if you use it like 20 times, yes. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Love it. Final conversation. You also wrote a story. This one's about a week old. You had the frontrunner city costs. You were questioning how much the city has spent to become part of this frontrunner city program. And your article, I kind of added all these up here, and I meant we had our little computer issues before we hit record. Yeah. I meant to upload this stuff so the audience could see it as well. But you kind of theorized in your article that it could approach $1 million.
Well, they budgeted for $1 million.
Was that $750,000? Right. And then you listed all the items, which I totaled up to $74,058.
Those are the known costs.
The known costs, right. And then since then, the city has put what they have spent so far.
So I lowballed it,
which is $466,000. Well, when you say $1 million, you highballed it.
No, because those are current costs. We haven't even gotten in. We've been doing this a whole year. This is for the past year. On the costs incurred just from the city. There's ongoing costs. I mean, there hasn't, they're going to continue to pitch and travel and whatever.
I do believe the manager, when he was asked directly by Councilor 𝐋𝐿𝐥 at, it was the last meeting, which was on election night, so I missed it. He was asked, are we going to go over that or run through? And I think the manager said, we're not going to go near the 750. Was what I think that was the response.
That would be great, right?
I have to go back and watch it.
That was again. Tuesday night, November 4th?
I believe it was during the November 4th
Their 7-minute meeting. No wonder I missed it. Yeah.
Their record meeting. You blinked, but I think that came up somewhere, or maybe it was the week before. Forgive me for not getting, but I do remember seeing somebody posted a clip of that dialogue between Councilor 𝐋𝐿𝐥 and the manager. But are you okay with the city spending, even if we get to $750,000, are you okay with the city spending that kind of money in an effort to better itself?
I think I said you have to spend money to make money. I believe in that. I don't understand why it has to be so, hush hush. Just tell people. But that's the way I am. Just tell people. If Markley wants to do this, just tell us.
Well, is it hush hush or?
Well, I don't think it's been disclosed until now. They
can't
just come out and say it.
They told you we're going to get $750,000. Should they notify the public every time they make, like you were talking about the catering when the European people came here to Lowell, and the Athenian Corner restaurant was mentioned. For the folks out there, I charged the city a whopping $500 to feed 30 people, which I would say is a bargain. I was actually going to comp it, to be honest with you. When the manager said no, he said, we have to, because then that would be a gift and it would open all sorts of other stuff. And he said, and nobody else is going to comp it. So, send me a bill. And I did. So that was, I think we were, I think the city was well served by that. But there is and I'm not saying it's necessarily you, but this narrative of they're not being transparent is feeding into this belief out there that government is sinister and our particular local government is sinister, and they're not transparent, they're not doing things above board, and it's a pay to play and
I didn't say that.
Now you did not say it, but others have, and others have insinuated it. The UMass Lowell history,
I like that.
The UMass Lowell history professor turned leading world economist, doing a little a little cartoon of money being exchanged, hands out and money being exchanged, and and other. There's a certain, what I would almost say, people don't want to see this be what we've been told it is, because then they would grudgingly either have to give credit to the people who made it happen, or in reality, they just really kind of hate Lowell and want it to be their vision of what they want it to be, versus a thriving. People are going to get mad at me. I know the administration's going to get mad at me. Dennis McCarthy, I know you're going to get mad at me as well. Yeah, gentrified, for lack of a better term. There are some people who fear the gentrification of Lowell and how it's going to price out certain segments of the city.
They're already priced out, but
which has bingo. It's been happening. I think Link and Frontrunner City is only going to speed this up, and it's going to happen to Lowell. You're about to become Cambridge.
That's interesting. My take on this was on the background of watching that whole Markley thing, going back and looking at the historical record, and I felt like the city was played. And I don't want to see the city played on these other big projects. I don't want them to come in. This is just me, making it personal. Even though I don't live here, I don't want to see the city played like chumps. Like, you're so desperate, you're going to take what yes, sir, may I have more? Please, sir, hit me again,
So that's a lack of faith in government but the institution. So now, these UN people are coming in to play the city of Lowell. That I've seen that from my MAGA friends who are like, when you have a 15-minute city, because the right wingers lose their mind.
I don't know, what does that mean?
A 15-minute city is where they basically control where you travel to, where you shop. You're carbon taxed on if you go outside your zone, if you drive over a certain number of miles. There are cameras everywhere. Look up 15-minute cities.
Okay.
My MAGA friends lose their bleeping mind over this. They're like, how can you be such a big fan of the Frontrunner City thing? Don't you know what's coming? I'm like, that's not what's coming.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
But that's also why I wanted to go up to Toronto and see for myself what is a Frontrunner City. And you know what I saw? Frontrunner City is just a bunch of people developing things. And,
it's developers
and people are going to make money,
right?
But they're also going to leave a better community, a better city, a better neighborhood of the city in its place. And I think we will start to see that here in Lowell very soon, but I think people are I still think there's a segment of the population that's going to fight it every step of the way.
I'm not fighting it, and I'm not advocating or taking a side for the fighters. What I'm trying to say is that, using Markley as the sample or the example, is that to have more of a say. We gave them $77 million in tax breaks on a plant that might generate $150 to $200 million in revenue. That's almost half or a third of their, I don't know what it is currently but that's a lot of money. And I just want to say, don't give it away.
All right.
We're valuable. It's valuable real estate. It's a valuable opportunity for them as well as for us.
So this is a good debate that we gave away $77 million.
I think so. I saw Somerville has tons of projects that are the same size, and they gave $30 million in tips.
But you didn't give $77 million. You forewent
Right.
$77 million worth of potential investment
Right.
that, quite frankly, if you didn't, I'm not sure you were getting a Markley Group. These entities,
Well, we don't know.
These entities can shop for their locations, and somebody will outbid you for it, whether it's a Somerville or whatever. So, but that site was generating how much in revenue before the Markley
No, you're right.
Group
I mean,
opened?
exactly.
And even today, people will tell you the Markley Group is paying $250,000 worth of property taxes to the city. Do you know how many houses you need to build to get to $250,000?
There's no question.
Okay, so but when you frame the argument as we're giving away this kind of money, and it's not you.
Yeah, no, I
per se.
understand.
This is the argument that's out there. Like they got $77 million and we got nothing. You got a completely underused hole in the ground, basically, which was an old Prince pasta factory that had done nothing, generated no revenue for the city for 17 years, and quite frankly was filthy and disgusting to look at. Now, the dirt pile certainly isn't nice. Hopefully that goes away.
Yeah.
Maybe a 10-foot high towering diesel generator isn't
36.
isn't a mural.
Yeah.
But
maybe they'll paint them.
Is
Yeah, there you go.
Are they 36 feet high?
Well, the Ford F-150 that was helpfully posed in front of it, that's 6 feet high, and those things loom over that. So maybe it's got to be 20 to 25 feet.
So about 3 stories.
It wasn't on the schematic.
So it's about a 3-story building.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or a 3-story tenement house, which I think some line that neighborhood. But how many of these houses do you need to generate $250,000 worth of revenue? Never mind what Markley will give you once that TIF expires, and hopefully they don't pack up and leave.
I can't see that, but sure.
Now look at what you're getting. Look at the spin-off business you're getting.
I think it should be
whatnot.
mutual. That's all. That's all I'm saying is it should be mutually beneficial. It shouldn't just be that you cleaned up a dump.
But we all think housing is mutually beneficial for a city, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what does the housing bring with it?
Well, it brings people.
Cars.
Right.
People going into your school system, costing you money. People using your resources.
A different type of growth. Yeah.
Traffic, etc. So it's a trade-off, but to the neighbors over there, something's going in there. Whether it's a Markley expansion or something else, land is too valuable and it's too short in supply in Lowell and in Massachusetts to sit vacant any longer. Those days are gone. And if you want land to sit vacant, you got to go to a ranch in Wyoming. Or
Westfield.
Or Westfield, exactly. Go to the western part
Mass,
of the state or whatnot.
which is where I think they're going to migrate to. Yeah.
People.
There's more land out there.
You hope, but as long as the magnets are here in the gateway cities or Boston.
Yeah, I don't know how they transfer that energy. I mean, they're building a lot of these plants in the middle of nowhere. So they must have some sort of pipeline that it's not cloud computing, that's for sure. So I don't know how they're hooking it all up.
So you and I are in agreement that front runner city thing will be good, money well invested eventually?
I don't want to, well, of course, but I don't want to see the low forward plan as a fallback. Well, we already had the community conversation, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. You know, like you have to be flexible. You have to, but Teddy, I totally get your point. When people don't show up to vote, this is academic. All we're doing is talking to each other. And if the citizens really want to say, and it's hard to take it seriously, you're absolutely right. It's hard to be a multi-million-dollar company and think that you have to pay attention to anything when only, less than 10% show up to vote. There's no political clout. So who are you going to talk to? You're going to talk to the voters? No, you're going to talk over their heads to the decision makers. And so,
but we're also assuming that 90% that don't show would vote a certain way or would advocate a certain way, which can be kind of dangerous because what if it's just a bunch of crankpots in that neighborhood? Well, and if you lay out the cases, these are the benefits of Markley, these are the negatives. Somebody in Belvedere, somebody in the Highlands could say, screw Southwell.
Right.
And, the hell with those 5 neighbors or whatever the number is.
One of the speakers came up. I think
this is where town meeting gets kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
So.
Believe me, Arlington has town meeting, and I sit there for 3 hours, and I think, what did we just decide?
Town meeting ends up running you afoul of MBTA community requirements and stuff. So I'm okay with the representative democracy. And I'd like to trust that our people, for the most part, are going to do the best thing for the city. Do they always? No, but it happens.
We'll see what happens, right? I mean, I just feel like there's a lot happening. There's Link And we know how the people, that's not me talking, that's the people in the city feel like UMass Lowell already owns half the city, which is not taxable. I don't know where their pilot funds stand right now. That's a good story.
There is no pilot.
Okay.
They do and again, to clarify that, there is no pilot agreement between the city and
there was, though.
And UMass Lowell. There is an agreement whereby they voluntarily give some consideration. Also, they're not completely tax-free. I believe like they're places that have like some level of retail or dining.
Right, and they argue they're 2,000
that's a taxable
people.
property and whatnot. So.
Right, and they argue they're a major employer. I think LGH, Lowell General Hospital, is the biggest employer, and they argue like they're the second or something. So they bring all these employees into the city, and they're spending money presumably and whatnot. But I think everybody should feel like they have a dog in the fight. That's it. But you raise a good point. If those dogs don't show up, they're all bark and no bite. It's hard to take them seriously.
That's your table. The first Tuesday of November, every 2 years here in the city.
And that was disappointing.
That's your seat at the table. And so maybe that just happened. Maybe everybody else is either just happy or really doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, and so
it's going to let the people in the bubble fight over these political issues.
And I stay off of social media because I don't think that's reflective of the.
How do you live without social media?
I don't. I can't. It makes me
crazy. That's where all
the
the fun is.
No, I don't. I have my hands full, but that could be those. I get the impression that it's an echo chamber on social media, and so that you could have these one voices that are amplified through that medium, and it seems like it's a chorus, and it's not. It's one voice. So we'll see. I think front runners should be super exciting. It seems like everybody's jazzed, and they're supposed to announce by the end of this month, according to that meeting.
I believe by the end of the month
we're in the jam section.
An exciting announcement.
Yeah.
Well, we know where it's the jam plus or whatever, but what the specific location is, we shall find out. But I believe it's going to be an exciting announcement, but I will also predict here that there will be a certain subsection of the city that will just lose their minds over it for whatever reason.
I'm not losing my mind, Teddy.
No, but you are losing your tonsils.
Yes, so I am.
We're going to end it on that. Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun. You can read her work all throughout the week. How many columns a week or articles or even like quick little blurbs do you churn out in a week?
14, 15. So roughly 2 a day.
2 a day.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the major ones, the longer investigative types and the Sunday column.
Yeah, like the Markley buying up all the properties around the plant. That took a little bit longer, but yeah.
All right. Well,
I just had to throw that in.
Hopefully you're not gone too long because I need my Sunday column fix. And quite frankly,
I'll take care of you.
Peter makes my hair catch on fire. So I need.
He's a good guy.
I need some of Melanie in there. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time. Good luck to your speedy recovery.
Thank you.
When you're ready to talk again, shoot me a text.
I'll let you know. Maybe I'll come out with a deeper voice or something. I don't know what's going to happen.
Sounds good to me. All right. Thank you. Right. Thanks to Melanie Gilbert, and thanks to you for tuning in as well here on the Monday, November 17th edition of the Daily Pulse. Tomorrow, speaking of back after a long absence, Greg Pappas will be joining us here in studios. Bill Samaras will be with us Wednesday. I don't know who else I have with him. I told you about Ray Booten on Thursday. And of course, Boner and the fabulous Leslie and Lindsay, Daily Pulse Live, 10 a.m. on Friday, unless Will Rosenberry throws me a curveball and does the recount at 10. Then I got a problem, Will. So 12 o'clock or later, please, we're buddies, right? We talk. Anyway, thank you. Till then, everybody, please stay warm, please stay safe, and we'll catch you on the other side.